Right, so I guess we better start. I was hoping to have Matthew Paul Thomas on the RRC, but apparently not, so we have to do without him. So
I just arrived.
did you? Okay. So basically, we've got this Jockey thing for quite some years now. So it originated in Breezy when we, I think it was Restricted Driver Manager back then. So basically, as a way to educate people about, like you want to install this third-party proprietary 3D driver, and it's going to like ruin your karma in all eternity, but at least it gives you shiny graphics. And so I wanted to revisit whether this is still like the inappropriate way to present it to the user, especially because we also have some Ubiquiti integration these days, and also because like Jockey itself is quite hard to maintain, so it was designed for a whole lot of other things that we are using it for, and but none of these turned out to actually be used. So I would actually just like to throw away the whole thing and re-implement a new design that Matthew Thomas was proposing. So maybe if you could open that URL there with the projector with like the appropriate substitutions. And so this is what I would like to do. So discuss the design of it, how it's being integrated into the system settings now.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically Matthew's plan was to provide a much simpler UI into the the software properties. So right now, if you don't have any drivers, it's quite a confusing UI. Like it gives you a scary sentence at the top and then a huge empty white window at the bottom.
Right.
And likewise, like it presents like about 6 different NVIDIA drivers to you these days, and you don't really know what to use. And like Wi-Fi is kind of obsolete because Ubiquiti already installs it for you. And yeah, so this is the proposed new design.
Does it install it in all cases?
Not actually sure whether you have to tick this box there, but I seem to remember that I didn't have to.
But I mean, it's able to figure out what driver, using the same kind of code that Jockey was using to figure out which driver
using
you want
Jockey, like it's calling Jockey text -list and using this. So, but we have a much more modern infrastructure.
So DI can also do that?
Sorry?
DI also does this?
I don't know. It's been a long time since I tried it. Also, I've never tried it on my netbook, and this one doesn't need any drivers, so I know.
Okay. Because I mean, if DI doesn't install a driver, then there's clearly a use for Jockey to be able to allow you to install.
Too.
Yeah, because a user might use an Ethernet to install, and then they might need to install the driver after the fact.
Right, but I mean, if you don't have Ethernet attached, then it's pretty much what you want. Because otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to entirely remove the current Jockey logic and just use the more modern package-kit interface for this. So I worked on this already last cycle. So pretty much any UI can make use of this and just ask package-kit API. What driver do I need for this piece of hardware, or what driver do I need for this machine? And so it's all hidden behind a nice upstream compatible, well-defined interface. And so this will get rid of like all the backend logic in Jockey. And so it's mostly the question whether like this is an appropriate design, or you guys have some other needs for it. And
well, one thing that we're hearing from users that really like having the updates, the proprietary driver updates that we did, was it last cycle or the cycle before? I think it was last cycle.
Yeah.
They really like that. It seems like they would like to see driver updates in general, regardless of whether it's proprietary or open source. And so they wonder, if we're providing updates for the proprietary drivers, why are we providing updates for the open source drivers?
Yeah, or why can't I see all my other devices in here? But so this is something I would desperately try to avoid. So I very much do not want to make this into like a device tree browser or like.
But we could actually reasonably easily have a
you, like there we have two different NVIDIA drivers. We could have used Nouveau driver open source, use Nouveau driver untested untested new upstream, and we could, if we cared enough,
It
we
might
could
actually be
reasonably easily
clearer
do that.
overall to say you can use the open source driver or the
Tested
proprietary driver.
latest.
Stable
Right.
or latest, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was something that really didn't fit very well in the current Jockey, like in the very general Jockey like code structure. But since this is a lot more specific and Ubuntu specific, we can certainly do this stuff. And I agree, it's a lot less confusing.
Does the upstream package kit stuff handle fetching firmware for particular kernel modules? Like, you know, you might have, some drivers need, you've got the driver in the kernel, but then you need to fetch extra firmware to make the hardware work.
Yeah, it does have an API for this. I don't think it's actually implemented, but
Okay.
that's fine because like we moved to a system where we basically have plugins. So we do not need to teach all of that to package kit itself.
Okay.
You can just drop like a Python plugin in some
Yeah.
way and then provide like Ubuntu specific implementation of
Yeah.
these kits. And this is in fact what we are already using for like language support packages. And
Right.
Order support for like a mod alias thing. So
Yeah.
we could use firmware.
Okay.
And in fact, I think Fedora is doing that already. For firmware. Since we installed pretty much everything, we never felt the need for it. But we
Yeah.
do have some corner cases for Linux firmware non-free,
Yeah.
where we currently have a whole hack and update notifier
Yeah,
to
yeah,
test this. But
Another issue that we frequently see in bug reports is the user has installed some crack that they found somewhere, like they've downloaded NVIDIA from NVIDIA's website, installed it, and then they go to this, hoping that this will fix whatever they've broken.
If they can get this at all.
Have you thought at all about providing a way for them to purge away any remnant bits and other things like
I would do that.
What-
Yeah, I was going to say, we really want to try and break the system.
So I guess we could. I guess
like they've installed NVIDIA and they've broken it, they've rebooted their either Besa or Uvo or something like that, and they just want to clean up and start over again.
So I guess if we had some form of plug-in-ish interface to this, we could have we could detect that we could have NVIDIA user installed detection and throw up a warning here saying something like you've manually installed the driver, this is unsupported, click this button and we'll revert to the Ubuntu supported driver. And
we could certainly
easily
detect
do
it
that.
here, but I think if you install the Ubuntu package driver, then I think that driver packages pre-inst and post-inst should clean up after the upstream one.
Okay.
Then it wants just also when you are on the command line and you read somewhere, please type apt-get install blah 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 to fix your export. And
I think it does. I'm pretty sure that
it goes through some lengths to make
Yeah.
sure that it works and cleans up
So
after.
I don't think
it just doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah.
I guess we might also need the open source ones to do that as well. Except that's maybe we should factor out a common cleanup after the proprietary driver set of functionality and do it on postings for all of our packages.
It's like an action item.
That sounds like an action item.
So would that be something that Alberto would be interested in doing? Because he's already done like 90% of it.
Well, we should certainly work with him on it.
Yeah.
It would probably it would basically be a matter of factoring out the stuff that he's already done into a common.
And this sounds like we could have a test case around this and plug in injection.
Yes, it does. That would be excellent.
Yeah.
The other thing that I can see will be controversial on that mock-up is the use of yellow for open source and green for proprietary.
Does Matthew run away screening? Or? I don't know.
Now, I'd like to push open source as much as the next guy, but does it really buy as much to distinguish between those and this dialogue? Is
that's
that
right.
what, is that what?
So what that says up there, what that mock-up says up there now is that if you install a proprietary driver, the icon next to the graphics card will be green. If you install an open source driver, the icon next to the card will be yellow.
Oh, well, I think
indicating that you're
this would say like red means your device doesn't work at all, and yellow means it's working somewhat, and green means it's working to its full capability.
right, but that's not what the text down the bottom says. The text down the bottom says yellow means you're using an open source driver, which is not actually the same as your thing is working somewhat.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
Yeah, so
in the case of say,
FPT seems to agree.
Yeah. If we factor that, if we factor those things out, open source, proprietary, stable, update, or stable latest, then it could be yellow for using the unsupported latest,
Yes.
green for using the stable. And I think that would be a
Driver that works somewhat and driver that works completely. Well, I guess we had to hard code that knowledge into like the particular driver there, so we know that like Nouveau is not open, not using the hardware to the full extent.
Well, these days the open source drivers are getting pretty good, so it's kind of a hard judgment call to just say these drivers are always going to be better than those.
Yeah, I mean you trade KMS versus performance. Of course.
Right. So, I don't know.
and
if
not
that's
not always even performance.
Choose your breakage. And
So.
who would flip the switch to say Nouveau is good enough now? Well, I guess at some point it needs to be, because for like all these other plans with like display, system compositor, and
So
I
I
mean,
think
there's ways that we could actually measure and test if
Pretty
the
much,
functionality
yeah.
is enabled.
They
It
pretty
depends
much
on the
need-
card, right?
it does depend on the card, yes.
So
And
would Jockey be able to look at it, look at a database, say this is better for your card?
Well, I don't know if we want to maintain a database.
no.
we could maintain a set of cards, but we could maintain a set of cards known not to work well.
Yeah. In
Like
fact, we already have that.
we don't already have that.
Not even a database, just a file of PCI IDs.
Yeah, a list of
matching it.
PCI IDs
There you go.
that we know don't work well. I
Yeah,
think
we can do this, but I'm just concerned that we're not going to keep it up to date.
Yeah.
Because
can we automatically generate a set of
I don't think so, because we
If you can programmatically generate, you can just as well put that programmatic logic into that system and compute it dynamically.
well, no, but it might require that we might get that information from running long Jenkins tests, and the local system is not going to have
if
access.
we have complete hardware coverage of the test suite.
Yeah.
Do we really need to differentiate between that driver might work properly, that one might not be complete, or
I
proprietary
don't know.
versus open source? Because, I think
we pretty much
you don't
know-
have a driver and you have a driver is a good thing to
Yeah.
differentiate.
Yeah, also like it seems to me like we pretty much know what the open source driver does, like all the KMS bits is like a little slower, and the closed source driver just looks shitty at boot, but gets you the maximum performance. And I mean, it might,
I guess I kind of hesitate giving advice here because I know we're going to give bad advice. We don't know every card, every combination, and
That's right, but I mean-
users are going to quickly distrust it. Oh, it says yellow, but oh, it's wrong.
yeah,
It's right.
frankly, I just not color coded at all, and then the user can play around with this a little bit and then use whatever is better
I
for
think
them.
we should communicate what
Because
we
that's-
say with absolute certainty
Hmm.
and say, this is an upstream.
I mean, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have all this madness at all. So this is already a crutch, and to a certain extent, we're already relying on the user to make a decision based on his own preferences.
And the thing that we can say with absolute certainty is one of these two drivers is the one that was tested with the release.
Right.
The other one is one which is newer, maybe better, maybe worse.
Right. Yes.
So
But we
so
have-
I think green, the recommended one would be the one that was tested in the release, and yellow would be the updates one. I think that
Sounds
I
a
think
lot
that's
more reasonable. To me,
Yeah.
anyway.
So like Matthew, we actually have in this sense, recommended one is pretty well defined. So like the one that we released with is the recommended one, and every newer version that we update post-release gets a lot less testing actually. Yeah, I think so. I mean, in some way, this is still blurry because we are also updating drivers precisely because the so-called recommended one does not work for some people at release time. But yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, but at that point, I think the user will notice that, hey, so this driver isn't working properly. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, the user has to decide. I mean, it's and probably test them all and see what works best. So maybe we shouldn't overdo the color coding here.
yeah.
And maybe just like go on.
I think some form of color coding is probably reasonable, but just that.
Yeah. So just for the record, if we remove the Jockey logic, like the complicated one, then we need to move the part that looks for the printer drivers for you on OpenPrint.org into system config printer itself, which I think is a lot more reasonable than the current ping pong between the two. But yeah, I guess there's little to discuss here. I just mentioning it. So there's some development necessary. So what else do we have on the agenda here?
Hey Mark, have you thought at all about how this relates to hypergraphics?
No, I'm not an expert there. I thought this was still pretty much broken until like in a year or so when export gets along with it properly.
and entirely possibly longer for the proprietary drivers.
Well, I'm thinking more.
We shouldn't
these-
offer,
Yeah.
like we currently don't offer to install the NVIDIA driver on
I think we should just keep that logic.
and that logic now goes into this software updates.
Yeah, like the plugin for package kit and whatnot, like whatever the new logic moves to.
Okay.
So this would basically condense like the 10% of the code that we use in Jockey into that one plugin, and yeah.
Hey,
Not
Chris,
easy to
have you
do.
looked at how this dialog looks on a hybrid graphic system? Does it seem to be getting the correct advice?
Yes, on NVIDIA hybrid graphic systems, it does not offer to install the NVIDIA driver. We SIU'd that. On ATI Intel hybrid systems, it gives possibly correct advice. So there are ATI hybrid systems that the fglrx driver will work on. We offer to install fglrx there. There are ATI Intel hybrid systems where the fglrx driver will not work. We offer to install fglrx there. Like this one won't work with the fglrx driver. It is offered to install. I don't know how we can tell the difference between the two cases. So I think,
It's again a matter of tinkering and see what works, I guess.
yeah, like I don't know how we can, other than just collating reports of I installed fglrx and it broke. I don't know if there's any way we can
We have
tell.
those.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of those, I imagine.
Yeah, also, I mean, we're not going to solve the general problem of we don't have a good NVIDIA driver which works everywhere. But
Yeah. Yeah, we can't.
yeah.
We can't solve there are driver bugs.
So like the Broadcom Wi-Fi is certainly a lot easier because like in many cases you would just get it installed by Ubiquiti, and for the other cases, I mean the single toggle there is just fine, so I guess.
This is slightly out of scope of the session, but I don't suppose we could stop installing fglrx by default when you tick the box in Ubiquiti.
I don't think we do.
I think we do.
Okay, if we do, then I think we should not.
Yeah.
I don't even think we installed the NVidia driver. This is strictly restricted. It's supposed to be restricted to the Wi-Fi driver.
Okay.
We're talking about ubiquity?
Yep.
So I mean,
When you tick the box, which we say, please tick this box, it will make your system work.
yes. This
I
is-
believe it installs fglrx if available and NVidia if available. Can we make it not do that? Like installing NVIDIA is possibly okay. fglrx is not. fglrx is
So I don't know about fglrx. The use case was specifically NVIDIA when we made the switch to UDS, because we were providing people with a much better experience if they use the NVIDIA driver.
that's
Whoa.
true. You're providing people with
Well,
a
the
different
different, yeah.
experience if you use the fglrx driver.
And it's going to get a lot worse when we have like system compositor and we need KMS and using screen lock for Platinum for screen lock and stuff. But actually, I have always worked under the assumption that the only thing that we automatically install is Broadcom, and I'm just checking the source here.
Yeah, I worked under that assumption until
It's,
someone in Debian was like,
So
Why
Jockey
have
wouldn't
I-
offer it for that auto install.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe Ubiquity hardcode is that also.
Is this the same checkbox that installs MP3 support?
yes,
Yeah.
this is the please make my system work checkbox.
So yeah,
Like that's what we've worded it to say.
So if you use Jockey dash auto install, it would not install NVIDIA or FGL.
Another Jockey option, if memory serves, that installs
Mm.
a
Dash C, yeah,
Yes.
check for compositing.
Yep, and we use that
Oh god, why didn't I remove this years ago?
because we need it, apparently.
Well, I mean, I totally think installing FGLX by default is just plain wrong.
And
Can you
that's,
specifically include in the text that it's installing your driver setting?
Matthew?
And in fact, I mean, this is just wrong because the open source API driver does compositing just fine.
Like the open source API driver does everything pretty much just fine.
Yeah, so this is yet another reason to have another look at the old.
Matthew, can we change the text in the installer to mention the fact that it installs graphics drivers?
And then do less of it.
Yeah, that's what
So, one of the things that we need with part of the installer redesign around that specific page is the ability to query whether or not this is needed. So, in the case of the Broadcom driver, to be able to detect.
So,
Sorry.
no, that's fine.
Oh, in the case of the Broadcom driver, being able to detect that we actually needed to display wireless networks. The idea being that we'll show a wireless page and presents a button with some text above it saying you need to first enable third-party drivers before you can use your wireless, rather than just having this box tick on the prepare page and then going to the wireless page, which might be empty, which might not be empty based upon whether or not you tick the box on the previous page.
Yeah, so I added about
Yes, the hideous software sentence. Matthew, it might be worth talking to Amanda. She sounds, last time I talked to her, it seemed like she actually thought we were being a bit overbearing with the text we already had. So we might be able to drop part of that.
Yeah, or maybe just make it 2 checkboxes or so. Like it's like install everything, and my mother, it's like I might very well use the media formats and everything, but
So
if it always comes packaged with the driver.
the driver stuff is getting separated out. That's my point.
Oh,
What we
okay.
need in Jockey is a way to be able to query when those things are available. So if we don't have, if we have the Broadcom chip available, then having Jockey be able to tell us that that's the case. The same thing would hold true for the graphics driver, being able to tell whether or not, basically being able to tell whether or not dash auto, whatever it is, or dash C is actually going to do something useful.
Right.
And then in that case, we can conditionally present UI.
Can't you already do that by querying available fibers? Jockey already has an interface for querying available drivers.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
we
it's
introduced that special compositing option like in, I don't know, depth or
When
so.
was that? Yeah.
Depth or
The
edgy.
long ago.
I think edgy, yeah. When we had the Richard install one. I mean restricted management system first version. This is why it's not called an RMS, by the way. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so we probably need to talk a bit about the interface between the new lightweight Jockey and Ubiquity, but this is fairly technical. I don't think we need to do it now.
Especially as I hope to not be the one in
Good. Yeah, so this was pretty much what I want to talk about in the session, and then I see some other things here in the.
I just thought, the conversation might die down after the video driver part of it, so.
Right.
I just put in a whole bunch of community stuff that's been
So this is
lingering around. Maybe talk about those. Any good ideas?
Yeah, so for other printer drivers, I mean, Jockey already queries, or like in the future, System Config Printer already queries openprinting.org for any kind of printer driver when you have a printer which doesn't have a local one. So I think my best answer would be to just add it there so that everyone in the Linux world finds it.
Does it still show a very, very long list? And then you have to select it, or does it detect it?
No, you plug in the printer and then it just comes up and says you need to install this, click yes, like you really want to click yes here, and then...
And Brother is part of that?
I don't know, I mean,
Okay.
I do know that Epson and HP are.
I think Brother was the last one that still has a wiki page.
Could
and
very
people
well
have to
be,
go
yeah.
through manual.
So to be honest, I'm not following that at all,
Okay.
so like Till would certainly be a good person to answer this.
Okay.
But I mean, if so, it should just be on openprinting.org, because like why would we special case there, or just package them? I thought we had packaged them years ago. Rubber caps, wrapper, and a whole lot of things there. Yeah.
There are some packages.
Linux Sun drivers, dial-up modem. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Whoever wants to provide like more drivers, yeah, do. So like the nice thing is they, like with the new package kit and package tag handling, you can provide any PPA with a driver, and package kit will automatically pick it up as soon as you enable it. So you do not need to write the glue code anymore that we had to use in the previous, like in the current Jockey, or the mod alias lists which are installed in advance or so.
So basically for that one, it'd be getting the tarball, finding out what the license is, see if it could be redistributed, and packaging it, and
package it somewhere, yeah.
through package kit, it'll know to put it in that.
Well, as soon as the package is available, like in app, then package kit will pick it up, yeah.
So how does the package kit query work? Is it looking at, is there an extra stanza in the binary package saying essentially I provide a driver for PCI ID?
So like if you use app-show NVidia current or so,
It
you will
has-
get the tag mod alias, which basically lists all the mod aliases that this driver package can handle.
Okay, yep.
And likewise for Broadcom and fglrx, so we converted all our drivers there. So obviously that logic doesn't work with the openprinting.org query, because it's a web, like XML-RPC
Don't have
interface and
one,
stuff.
yeah.
But this is something we could just put back into SCP, so like it's currently quite ridiculous why you even do it that way. But so for all the drivers that are packaged, I would very much like them to use dh_mod alias. So I wrote that little script which basically takes all the KO modules that your package builds and extracts the mod aliases and puts them into the right place. And yeah, so it should be fairly easy to package those drivers. And then you, like in the past, we need these mod alias lists pre-installed, and then all of this is just gone. So you can just ask someone to add a PPA and it'll work. Or they are on the archive and they will work. Yeah, so basically package kit plugin just does the matching. So it looks at the sysfs tree, gets the mod aliases out and matches them against the app.
Archive.
So it's fairly simple actually.
Okay.
Of course, we still need the wrapper for like NVIDIA and fglrx to do some extra checks and like system configuration adjustments, but yeah, that's pretty much the only thing we need to keep. Everything else would go away.
So would we still need the wrapper because we still need to be able to ignore NVIDIA cards on hybrid systems?
Right, so this is what I meant with the logic that is currently
Yeah.
in the actual NVIDIA.py handler.
But if we improve the post inst of the NVIDIA drivers, is there would it be worth moving the logic out of Jockey into the post inst?
So the bit of logic that should certainly be changed is like mangling xorg.conf. Do we actually have those? I thought we did that years ago.
We no longer need an xorg.conf for NVIDIA.
Right, so I see that it still has some logic here to remove the DRI and GL core modules if they are specified in xorg.conf. But this is probably just legacy at this point, so we can probably just drop that.
I think there might be some cases where NVIDIA needs to provide some special
Yeah, and
options and stuff.
it also removes the RGB path option in the file section, and disables the DRI2
You know,
module.
our fglrx scripts are so thorny. If it's at all possible, split that out into something separate,
Right.
especially if it can be reused with fglrx.
But I'd really like it to remove all the configuration logic and move that into the package itself so that it also works if you install it manually.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes so much more sense. And I think we already moved like 90% out of the code, but there's still some left. So the only thing which we need to have here is the override for the hybrid, like for the hybrid special case, but everything else should presumably be thrown out. Oh, and then I think we need the driver-specific text, which gives you the verbiage around like this driver is full potential for the blah blah. But yeah, it's tiny.
Rather than shove that directly into the driver postings, could we
proprietary drivers common. Yeah.
make that?
Dependency and then trigger.
Well, we have an NVIDIA common,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
like-
also used by fglrx, so I guess it should just go there.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it should be renamed at some point, but yeah. This is the thing that does all the alternatives magic. And
Well, that would be good to rename because I've had some users that are confused by, I don't have NVIDIA installed at all. It's this NVIDIA common package.
Driver support.
comment, yeah. I don't know.
Video driver support.
Yeah. Yes. Video driver support.
Well, either this or we just merge it together with the Jockey logic and just call the thing Jockey or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, after we doing this, there's not much left of the original Jockey code. It's pretty much the NVIDIA fglrx and Broadcom special cases. Everything else goes into software properties or into the package kit plugin, which would also be in that package. So I think we should just unify that. Okay. So we are done, I guess?
Do you plan to use the firmware detection plugin of GNOME settings even? Currently?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. Because like it's also just using the package kit API, right? And it's easy to write a plugin for this. So right now we're using an update notifier tag.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would like to drop that.
Yeah, but it's already there in GNOME settings even.
Yeah, it is now. It wasn't at the time when we wrote this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess I'll add for this. Drop update notifier tag for firmware. So it would take someone to actually implement the design in software properties. And yeah, so So I'm not sure whether anyone wants to do this.
Do what?
Like implement the new design in software properties, like for the driver UI.
Yeah, does anyone?
Well, since I won't be in like that desktop to mobile that long anymore, it probably need to be someone else.
I think we should probably sign up me for that, did we?
Oh yeah. So if you aren't interested in doing this, so it's sort of a PyGI exercise.
Not me specifically, but I'd be happy to sign up Bitbox for it.
You don't have the same French accent you had yesterday.
That's why I put you down. No, someone.
Like, I would be kind of interested, but I'm interested in a lot of things, so.
I'd also be kind of interested.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm going to need to eventually do a similar thing, package kit for Network Manager and installing VPN plugins.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I just keep.
No, I mean this is for implementing the degree.
I know.
I know, yeah, but and of course, like if you want, you can also like act on the backends, but like the package kit support is mostly there. Just need to start it out a bit with the actual logic here, but it's already working. So like we just need to add the special pages for NVidia. So. Okay, cool.
There was one work item I don't quite understand. You want to detect if someone went out to the web and downloaded a driver and installed it manually?
No, just
Yes.
if it's installed.
Oh,
Yeah.
if it's
Like the
installed,
package
fix
is not
it.
installed, but
Like,
the drivers.
Be
there.
able to work out, be able to recover from that
Yeah.
in the package install,
Okay.
because currently that.
So if you've done that and we have a package, it'll first clean that up and then install the package?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So to driver support or just Jockey. So I guess I'll sign me up for the remaining remaining driver specific logic to
That
above.
MPT,
Like into the plugin.
MPT says that design is not actually a part of software properties.
Oh, okay. So this is like a software center.
What do you want to do with software properties? Because that's mostly handling repositories, right? And updates.
Right.
So what do you want to change in it?
Well, I just thought that this design, well, it looks
Here.
a bit like what we currently have with software properties. So maybe this is
Yeah,
like a
it's-
part of software center now. I mean, but regardless of like whatever that is, we need to edit
But
it.
it does show system settings at the top, so.
Because it said software channels and updates, so
Is it going to be possible to do Python panels in Run Control Center? In Ubuntu Control Center?
not an embedded one.
Oh,
So if this is C, we need to implement it in C, but I mean, yeah, it's not rocket science.
C /
So that handles bug 850223 would like to be able to disable detection of swim drivers.
So we say again?
That fixes this bug. 850223 would like to be able to disable detection of some drivers because I see do not use this device. So that's exactly what that bug does.
Yeah, it doesn't disable the detection. It just like provides a more obvious version to disable like the proprietary one. Right now this is like disable the driver and yeah, there you can like talk in between them. But I don't think it's that bug. I think there's probably some OEM requirement or so to not show this at all.
Here, if you said do not use the device, you just won't be prompted anymore every time you boot and Jockey starts up, right?
Oh, you are not getting prompted every time, just at the first time.
Yeah.
So, but I think that bug is about like disabling this, even this step, probably for OEM installs or something.
Okay.
This actually had been possible in the past quite easily. With this logic, we need some extra inhibition flag, but all right. For the drivers to be a panels by itself. Oh, so you mean, Matthew, so you mean it would still be a separate panel much in the way that it is right now? Just integrated into Software Center. Okay. Yeah, I guess like it's not a lot of UI. I mean, so it's a bit of UI and then calling debug. So
Yeah.
I guess writing this in C is not all that much more effort than writing it in Python. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but we have to think about a way how we could inform the additional drivers via user interface about which drivers are proprietary and which ones are free, because
Usually, right now it's at the bottom. Right now
yes,
it's at the bottom.
but from the perspective we are using package.kit for querying. We need to lift this information from the app cache inside app daemon package.kit to the user interface.
I thought the API had like, is this package free flag or method or something?
There's a license flag, a license attribute for each package detail.
Really?
Yeah,
I'll check that code because I'm using package.kit in trunk.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually work on, like, the upstream package.kit doesn't tell you in Ubuntu, but I hope that app daemon does. But
Yeah, it gives you a license information.
You can get license information on package.kit. You can get license information from package.kit.
And yes, package.kit supports a predefined set of licenses.
That's right.
Enumerations, so it would be quite hard to get the right one.
So I have a def is package free, which calls get details and which passes the license, and it says yes if it starts with GPL or is in free, BSD or MPL. Yeah, XRS. In fact, in app daemon we could do much better because we have the component available.
Yeah, but
And in fact, app daemon would have a hard time figuring out the license for, at least for source packages that do not have copyright 1.0 format. So it's a bit the wrong way around. But
currently I think I only use free and non-free
in app daemon,
in app daemon, yeah.
that's perfect. That works with that code here. Well, actually it doesn't because non-free, like free is part of the string non-free. You can test that. Our test cases will catch that for sure. Okay.
Rename NVIDIA common to driver support.
Well, either this or this Jockey. So we just declared a new Jockey to be the 5% what's left of the old Jockey plus the NVIDIA common.
We're talking about renaming the package?
Yeah, because NVIDIA common is like, there's apparently some people who uninstall this because they do not have an NVIDIA card or an ATI card, but it's still needed for that one.
Okay, good to know.
And the plan for the software and updates panel is to use the package.kit one of GNOME and enhance it, or provide.
So the idea for the UI would just be to ask package.kit like which drivers can I install on that system, and then probably a little bit of the extra logic to expand like the NVIDIA drivers into these three buttons. And
Yeah, but do you want to get this into GNOME upstream, or?
I don't think so. They don't really care about NVIDIA drivers, and so at least it's not the initial plan. I mean, if GNOME upstream was interested in this, sure. But so far, I would put it into the Ubuntu control center. At least start with this.
Yeah.
So, like, I was talking to Reddit and SUSE about this problem in all the other companies like years ago, and we had this huge plan. This is why Jockey is so complicated, so that it works for all the use cases and it's got the Dover test cases and whatnot. But in the end, they didn't want it. So I wouldn't personally make a big push to re-ask them again and get another flame war. But yeah, so at least if they want it, it's a whole lot easier now because it's using package.kit API and not Jockey and not put specific package names and so on. Okay, well then, thanks everyone.